3 Network.
Hello. Welcome everyone to Perspective. And for those who have been here before, we welcome you back. Those, if this is your first time viewing, we thank you for being here. We welcome you to the party. We definitely want to encourage you to get into the chat, communicate, share your perspectives, and we challenge you to do that. Many times we don't know, but the things that we share, our views, our opinions, our outlook could be just the key, could be the glue for someone else, could be the light bulb that helps someone else get some perspective about things that help them along their way in life. And as we always do here on Perspective, the premise of our platform is right there in the name. Perspective. This is a safe place. This is a truth place. This is a place where opinions, points of views, different lived experiences are shared openly and honestly, and will be taken in with respect. So we may not always agree, and things may not always be the same, or our values, beliefs, and outlooks might not align. But that doesn't make you wrong, another person right, or that other person right and you wrong. It just simply means that it's different. And so our differences, in most cases, actually, if we just take the time, listen to understand versus just to reply, I think we get better as a community and bring us together. And that is what we want to do here on Perspective. So we'll jump right into it because we have a lot. This is something that was requested and has been asked about with some of our viewers and with other individuals that within our network. And the title of tonight's show is Self-Awareness, Accountability, Pathways to Real Healing. So before we get into that, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Eric Butler, the intellect, aka the Atlantic, because I'm cold, deep, and choppy. Because I'm cold, deep, and choppy, aka the Cullinan, because I'm the biggest diamond found on land, and ain't nothing nobody can do about it. I'm a father, grandfather. I have a background in talent acquisitions. I've been in that for just under 2 decades, 17 years for those who don't know. And then also that's kind of morphed into some career coaching, being an advisor in many cases. I'm active in the community with the Empower series, which is a nonprofit financial literacy program. I sit on that advisory board, so it has me out there talking to people, moving things along in our community. Other than that, I'm a man. I'm a Black man, so I've gained some experience over time. I'm not going to tell you my age, yeah, because you can't tell. Yeah, you know what? Let me stop. But I'm happy to be here, always willing to have those conversation discussions. And also I do a little counseling, personal counseling on the side. But with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to my illustrious co-host, the incomparable, unmeasurable, can always be hated on, but can't be duplicated on. Mrs. Latoya, aka Doc.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Latoya, aka Doc, aka Jeff's wife, aka them kids' mama.
Yes.
I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm an author, a speaker, and I am an amazing co-host. And I'm so excited to have you all here with us tonight. And right before we jump in, let's hit the comments and we can get rolling.
Mr. Ben Sutter III says you can support BS3 Network by sending stars. Stars help us earn money to continue building the network, and he thanks you. And if you can't notice that BS3 with the BS3 Network, he puts that BS3 into the BS3 Network. So this is a solid. Stars. Yes, absolutely. This is a solid network. I mean, the individuals, the founders, the owners, and facilitators of this network, I know personally, have met them, and this is a quality place. It really is for the community. It really is for the people. Definitely go on to all of them social media platforms. Look at the different programming we have. Give them a chance. Take a look. And then, as always, please like, share, subscribe to those that really resonate with you. And most importantly, with perspective, we want to make sure we stay in contact with you, and we can always share what we have going on. The next comment is by Miss Steph. She says, "Greetings,
Hey,
everyone. Greetings to you. Glad to have you back."
greetings.
Aspen, there it is, right there. Hello, 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 everyone. Good to be here. Good to
Hey,
have you here.
Aspen. Thank you so much for watching.
And then we have Travelmatic. Say, what's good, people? What's good to
What's
you?
good? What's up? Okay. Hey, family.
Right. Shout out to the family. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. And we're going to go into it, and definitely share while we're on here. Share with other individuals you think may can benefit from it. And even if they can't benefit from it, just have them come in and join the party, because that's definitely how we like to do it. And then I also want to make a notice. If you're signing on, um, the the platform will definitely give you an opportunity. StreamYard will ask you to click on it. It simply just gives permission to show your name. It's not going to ask for a bunch of information, so don't be afraid to allow that, so that we can address you appropriately and accordingly. Facebook user says, "What's up, good people? What's up, good?" And I think that's
Hey.
Justin
Yeah,
Carroll.
it is.
Yeah, he is the
Hey,
host
Justin.
of Elevate, one of the programs on the BS3 network. Definitely encourage you to go check that out. Absolutely, I do. So, Doc, let's kind of get into it.
Let's
Um,
do it.
we have a lot, and we're going to go into it. So, definitely be interactive, ask questions, share your insights, your perspective, your opinions, your lived experiences in that, so that we can get a full gist of it. So, we're not just sitting up here as experts and teachers, we're just in the group with you all, trying to learn and be better ourselves as well. So, self awareness and accountability. Doc, as you always enforce, before we discuss anything,
We
what are
have
we
to
going to
know
do?
what we discussing.
All
We got to
right.
give our disclaimer. Listen, we all know that y'all know somebody that this does not apply to. We are talking from our perspective, our education, our experience. And listen, there will be an outlier for everything. Okay? Now we got that off the table. You know how we roll. You got to define it for us.
All righty. All
We got
right.
to be on the same page.
Doc, you want me to read these definitions?
We need a definition. We talking about
All
self
right.
awareness. What does it mean? Because everybody probably think it means something different.
All righty. So, self awareness, the definition of self awareness is the ability to introspectively, and if people don't understand what introspective, that means inside, self reflection, deep inside, recognize and understand one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Okay.
All right. So
Do
self
you
awareness.
now accountability? And if you need to write this down, write it down, take a picture, look it up, have it for your reference. Accountability is the willingness to take responsibility for our actions, decisions, and the outcomes. Okay. It is the willingness to take responsibility for our actions, decisions, and their outcomes. That
Right.
is the outcomes of our actions and the outcomes of our decisions. Okay.
Got
We
it.
be willing to take responsibility for them.
Got it.
All right. All right. So we're going to start with accountability. How about that, Doc? Or do you want to go with self awareness first?
Either or. Accountability is fine.
All right. With accountability, the first aspect of accountability um, is personal ownership. So personal ownership, um, the accountability starts with recognizing our role in any given situation.
Any given situation. Can we just emphasize like any given situation? Because I think that often we are ready to acknowledge our role when it's something good, when we're being celebrated, when we're getting money, when we're
Mm,
like selling in life. We're like, yeah, that was me. You know, it was all me. I had did that. But then when it's something bad or when somebody's upset or it's negative, then we like, that wasn't me. What about them? What about who? So can we just emphasize all situations? Like everything's not going to go your way, everything's not going to be like amazing and great and fantastic. There will be negative things that happen, and you have to be able to accept, how did I get here? What did I do to contribute to this?
Mm-hmm. And what I would add on the personal ownership is, yeah, you really have to step into, you have to step into a realm of uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Because there is no lack of reality that things that happen to us may have some outside influence, and it may come from an outside aspect or entity. However, you still want to lead in with where you only thing you can control is you. So what
Right.
part did I play? It
Right.
may have been the decision to allow something. It may have been a
Child,
decision to interact with something or
it may
somebody.
have been the decision to take a class when you knew you shouldn't have took a class.
Talk
Then
about
you
it.
ended up in a situation. You got to
So
be, that's what I'm saying. You have to take accountability for yourself, because listen, most of what happens to us is because of something that we did. Obviously, there are extenuating circumstances, like being robbed at gunpoint is not your fault. I'm never saying that. But most of the time, like, you find yourself in these situations because you put yourself in these situations. Knew you shouldn't have been taking that class, but you was in there. So
yeah, let's see what the comments say.
here we go.
Mr. J. Gill, you said good evening, folks.
Hi,
Good
my man,
evening.
my man, my man.
There it is. The man is in the building. So Aspen Smith says, what about self-preservation? I got to hold on to my pride.
Okay,
Says joking. Say yes, we need to take ownership. Um,
agree.
no, but I think Aspen brings up a great point. You know, pride, ego. Um, those are things that I think once we move into self-awareness, that we'll kind of get into a little bit more. But that's a great point, because that is something that kind of hinders us. And that's exactly what I mean, getting into an area of uncomfortability. It is really taking on it, full ownership, because that's going to force you to think a little bit more critically and
Right.
deeply about what can I do to change the circumstance, even if you didn't initiate it, even if it was being at gunpoint. You
Mhm.
can't stop someone else from doing that. Could it have been make a different decision to go, different route, not be in a different area, to be in a different area, all those little things.
Hold on,
So
cause
yeah,
I we should be able to freely drive and go places. It is not our fault if people are crazy and want to rob us at gunpoint. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, what you should do and what you get to do a lot of times just don't line up. So
That's
let's
why I
be
be
honest.
door dashing and Uber. I ain't driving
There are
nowhere.
certain areas in my hometown I
Mhm.
already know if I go there, the percentages of me running into a circumstance like that are increased. So I can walk in there and say, well, I should be able to. I don't know why I changed my voice. That's just what happens, y'all.
What
I
happened?
should be able to go in there and facilitate whatever I like in that area. Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just,
It's just, yeah, no, and you're right. But that is the uncomfortable area. Where how do you draw the line? That's why I respect reality. And that's, I won't go into my spiel on that. Aspen Smith said, isn't that living by fear though?
I don't think
No,
so. I think that's being smart. If
that's
this
living by
area,
reference. Yeah,
right,
that's
if this
yeah.
area has a 99% crime rate, I don't need to be over there. I'm not
Logic.
fearful. I'm smart. Like, I respect reality.
There you go. There you go. So no, it's not fear. I call it reverence.
I
That's
call it
the
self-preservation.
which Aspen just talked about. Come on, Aspen, we
Yep.
got to get together. You got it all. You got all the pieces. We're gonna put them together for you. Next, so the next one on that is when we're talking about accountability. We just talked about personal ownership. Is learning from mistakes. I might have to take a back seat to this. I know Doc gonna get, um,
Here's the
she's
thing.
gonna
Here's
pull
the
out a
thing.
sword on this one.
I'm not. I'm gonna keep it. Keep it brief. So the thing is, every time you mess up, every time something doesn't go your way, every time you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, every time you have a negative outcome, there is a lesson to be learned. Right? I don't always know the lesson. You might learn the lesson a year from now, but there is a lesson to be learned, and the point is to not make the same mistake. I'm not mad at mistakes. Keep making them. That's the only way you're gonna get better. But why we gotta keep making the same one? That means you're
Not
not
the
learning,
same.
and that means you're not paying attention. pay attention to your life, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so learning mistakes definitely involves embracing mistakes as learning opportunities, as Doc just
Yes.
so eloquently put out there. So the value of learning from mistakes is definitely self-reflection, make looking at yourself on um, to understand the underlying causes and make positive changes. So, looking at what created this, what part of my decision, my makeup, my thinking put me into that circumstance, and what changes can I make, or what moves do I need to make in order to have better results coming out of that.
Yep, exactly. Or what part of my not thinking led
Mm,
me to this thing? And so maybe I should start thinking before I start doing stuff so that I don't keep making this same mistake.
who
Because
did I
sometimes
not?
we just do things, right?
Yeah,
Like,
who did I
it's
not listen
cool.
to? Yeah, who
Yeah,
was
like
I?
it's
Yeah.
cool. It seems like it's going to be a good idea. And then now here we are.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think learning from mistakes definitely is once you have make a mistake, you got to seek out some not necessarily professional counseling, but mentors, other perspectives, talk to other individuals about that, what they might have done differently. That's the
Right.
only way we're going to learn. I think within our community, and then I would say with men mostly, just don't seek enough advice because we're seeing, nobody wants to be seen as unknowing and not known. Um, but we got to get over that because there's a period of learning. Go ahead and get through that. Learn. Make sure you go to a safe place, the right place. You come on over to Perspectives Podcast and share some questions. Hit Doc or myself on the back end. We won't tell nobody.
Show them.
We won't tell nobody, and you can get some other ideas on that. So next, embracing feedback. So
So this is
accountability.
hard. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is hard. And before we get into why it's important, because I do think embracing feedback is important, right? Because we can't always see ourselves. We think we're projecting one thing and then people are taking it a different way. And so, yes, feedback is cool, but feedback from the right person.
Mm,
Everybody is not an authority on everything. Everybody does not have the capacity or the intellect to give you the appropriate feedback. So you got to be careful who you're getting feedback from, especially if you're not strong minded. Because see, too often people will take what you give them and they'll just take it. I'm not that person. Me in trouble, right? Because I have questions about my feedback that typically gets me in trouble. So you have to be willing to accept feedback, cool, but then accept these questions about the feedback because I have questions. You can't just tell me anything.
and I would add to that is whatever you know critical feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, feedback ain't always have to be nice and softly laid down. Is it best when it's done that way? I think it's smart for someone who understands the art and elements of communication to be able to make it land, and then also they can speak to the audience at the level that they can receive it. But I'm challenging our listeners, those that they share with, man, regardless of how it comes, don't worry about the content and not the context or like how it was said, but really take in what was said. And even if you disagree, just receive it. Just say thank you. Go and sit down and sift through it and see if it really applies. It's not something you have to own up to or agree with in front of anyone or anyone else, not even the person that gave you the feedback, but with yourself, you definitely want to take that in. um, Aspen Smith says some people are consistently negative. Why
Mm-hmm.
take feedback from them if you know what they're going to say consistently? Latoya agreed.
That's right, Aspen. Cause
Yeah, yeah.
it's gotta you listen. Feedback is great. Like that's how you change. That's how you grow. That's how you become aware of what you're putting out into the world. But you don't need everybody feedback. I don't believe that.
No, I think that's a key element is
Like, what gives you the authority to give me this feedback? Like, what we doing?
yeah. My favorite book, in one of it has a quote saying a wise king has wise advisors. So you need to be strategic about building that type of network, individuals you can go to in different areas with different expertise, about those specific things. And someone, here's a clue, someone who's been successful in that space in which you're going to ask questions about is really a really good indicator.
Yeah.
Aspen also says, know the source. Indeed. It perfectly said.
Agreed.
Yes, 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 and yes, indeed. All right. So as we're moving through self accountability, we talk about personal ownership, learning from mistakes, embracing feedback, and now, which Doc said is difficult, we're going to go into integrity and honesty. But before we go into that, we're going to read the message. Facebook user says, "How to determine the right person?" Question mark. Isn't determining whom or what we want to hear limits the capacity of self-corrections. Can what we can what we limit go into against our progress to heal? So what I'm feeling like is so when it says how to determine the right person, isn't determining whom or what we want to hear. And so it's not about what we want to hear back. Because if you limit, like I just want to go to someone who's always positive, who always says, echo chambers is what they're called. So if you always run to your echo chamber, you're always going to get the same feedback. But what you need is someone who will be objective. So basically, yeah, someone who's going to give it to you raw and unadulterated. It's like I like to say, right out the package, no seasoning, no nothing, just with the marbling and everything in it. All right, I'm sorry, Doc. Facebook user says this is constructive criticism. Oh, there is constructive criticism and destructive criticism.
Yeah, and I think you have to know the difference. I was saying by determining the right person, I'm saying you have to ask someone that you respect. First of all, if you don't respect the person, then you're not going to be open to or willing to hear their feedback. So I'm not saying weed people out and only go find your echo chamber. I'm saying it has to be the right person because people can only hear from people that they respect. It just is what it is. If someone that you don't respect, they can have a message for you, but the likelihood of you hearing it, no.
And I'm a challenge all of y'all. If you was getting brain surgery and the best brain surgeon on the planet was a complete asshole, like mean to people, but he's the best brain surgeon.
And he don't have any deaths?
Huh?
And he doesn't have any deaths under his belt?
No, he's the best brain surgeon. He's not a good person outside of the operating room. I don't give a damn. Guess who I want to do my surgery? So I'm using that analogy to say you have to consider what's being told. There's people I don't like, but they're knowledgeable in the space. They've been successful in the space. They have proven to be impactful, efficient, and effective in that area. I want to know that portion. Now, how you operate outside of those things and what your thoughts are outside of that, I could give a rat's ass about. But you take the meat and throw away the bone. So when you're considering people, I think this is important to discuss and elaborate on. When you're considering people, look at the results. If people have been successful in the area, they facilitated those things, they've been in that position before, and they've come out. They've been in that force and they came out with a chinchilla. They know some things about that. So you want whatever area you're looking to get that feedback and that criticism from, when you're considering who to get it from, those are the things you want to pay attention to. Not if you like them and they nice.
I don't think you have to get feedback from somebody you like. Respect and like to me is different. I can respect that you're the top brain surgeon of the world and let you operate on me. That don't mean we finna go get coffee.
Indeed. Perfectly stated. So we were talking about integrity and honesty. Hold on. We got Alexis Butler in the building. She said, take the meat and throw away the bone.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she might have heard that before, once, twice, 300 times.
I'm sure she's heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah, indeed. I know. And I'm going to tell you something, and I'll be a little transparent. For people who don't know, that's my youngest daughter right there. That's my baby bird, as I call her. And when I tell you she has a certain level of wisdom that's beyond her years, because even me, she's identified. I've had a moment where I'm saying something, but she's saying, okay, the things you've taught me, Dad, that is counterintuitive to what you have taught me. And very subtly and always with respect, she challenged me on that thought. And I didn't say, Well, you, as my mother would tell me, because I'm the mom and you the child.
Yeah,
I said, you really think so? Okay. She left the room, and I was introspective about what she told me. So it didn't matter that it came from my child or that it was someone younger than me. I took that in and really discovered, like, that is real. And so that allowed me the opportunity to go to work on that, to look at that a little bit deeper and become better. So there, I did it. If I can do it, you can too.
It's the voice changing for
Yeah, I
me.
just did the Saturday after school voice message for the children. Facebook user says, doesn't respect limit only what we want to know or hear? Again, our choices can often limit our own progress. Who determines respect, and what does that look like? Man, that's a whole nother conversation, but I think it rests with you and what your perspective on what respect is, what allows you to respect the person or not respect the person. So we can't challenge you on that. I think
Right.
at the end of the day, you get to do that. That's why I rest on the fact that I'm looking at from what I need to gain as far as information, knowledge, or experience. I'm going to look for someone who's been successful in that arena or that
Right.
space, and I'm going to go to them regardless of the other things about, and you're going to respect someone in that space. I think Doc was saying that. I don't have to like them, but I respect the fact that they're successful in what they do or how they do it, certain things. So I'm going to receive whatever I get back from them. If they're saying, no, you're not doing that correctly, this is
Right.
another approach. You're not applying this. So hopefully that gives a little light to that. Doc, anything on your end on that? Okay.
No, that's
Uh,
good.
And I appreciate the comments. Keep it coming. And Facebook use, I definitely wish you would put your name, give StreamYard the permission to show your name so we can address you appropriately and give you all the hearts and love we want to give you. Miss Steph says everyone can glean something from everyone, even negative people. But you take the good, leave the rest. Church folk
Church
do it all.
folks do it all the time. But listen, let me hallelujah.
Go ahead, Doc.
Nope, nope, nope. Hallelujah. Amen. Now that tickles you again. I
I'm
think what
sorry,
she said
everybody.
was take the meat, spit out the bones. Church folk do it all the time. I mean, Steph on to something with that one. That's all I got. Amen.
Uh, yeah, me and Doc have discussions on other y'all. It's just something I can't talk about it. Anyway, integrity and honesty, Doc. Um, your first thoughts on that before I talk about what it is? No, okay. Accountability is closely linked to integrity and honesty. But when we talk about integrity, Doc, what for you as someone who you work what you do is people. That's your thing. When you talk about
Yeah.
integrity and honesty, let's get your feedback on that.
I mean, I just think that like being honest, if we're trying to be accountable and we're trying to heal and we're trying to be self-aware and da 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 da, you have to have a sense of honesty because what we healing from if we lying,
Mm.
right? Like, how are we being accountable if we lying? How are we being accountable if we're lacking self-awareness? So for me, the integrity and the honesty is mandatory. Like you can't
It's no way
because
to do it without it.
yeah, like you
No
healing
way.
a lie. Like what's happening?
Yeah, if you hadn't set some principles, I'm not going to challenge anyone on their principles or their values because I think there's something that's a very personal thing. But
Right,
if you don't have a clear set of values and principles in which you operate by, then you can't even move in that.
right.
Because and then when we talk about being honest, and we're not talking about being honest with other people, we talking about being
Honest with
being honest with your
yourself.
damn self.
Yeah.
And what y'all fail to realize, not necessarily, I don't know if you fail to realize, but I've come across a lot of people, they are very delusional on self, which that's why you have to have that to even walk into the realm of becoming a self-accountable person and really practicing accountability at the level that will be healing and send you into a level of change and elevation. So you got to start with integrity just in yourself. Have your principles. You put your foot down on this is what I'm going to live by, how I'm going to operate, and how I'm going to move. And if you're not honest with yourself, then you can't establish the integrity, and then you can't move into being an accountable individual.
Absolutely.
All right. And so we are going to touch on self-awareness. And we got one more thing. We're right at the half-hour mark. So we're moving into our last point on accountability. Celebrating successes. Doc, I'm going to let you have this one.
Yes, because here's the thing.
Yeah, because I'm like,
looking
no.
at your, you are so just like, but anyway. Yes. So when you are working on yourself and you are challenging yourself and you are putting yourself in situations where you have to be reflective and like all of that, every win, celebrate every win. That's how you gain momentum. That's how you keep going. That's how you become okay with the person that you're becoming. I'm not saying throw a party every time you woke up when your alarm clock went off. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you did something today that was outside of your character yesterday for the good, celebrate that. Pat yourself on the back. Tweet yourself and say, I passed the test today. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think when you hear celebration, I think you think people want a cupcake for being regular and being normal. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying acknowledge that you did something well. Acknowledge that you're one step closer to being the person that you want to be. That's how you create momentum.
No, you're absolutely correct, Doc. I was going to try to just be an antagonist in a protagonist in this, and I can't do it because that is.
I'm glad.
Because good energy breeds and attracts good energy, and that's what you want to do. Even in goal setting, I'm always thinking about being incremental in that. If you set goals that you can't reach, people will fizz out. You're human. You're going to kind of fizz out. So you have to set some achievable goals because you want to have that positive momentum as you go forward, and it will snowball until you can't be stopped, and then you just all of your movements will be majority celebrations. Even though you're going to have failures, you're going to have hiccups, and even when that happens, it'll still be good with you.
Because it's always all good with you.
Man, come on, even when it's bad, it's good with me, baby. I'm telling you, man. Man, I refuse to be anything less than platinum. You hear me? I speak it, and can't nobody tell me nothing different. All right. Miss Steph says accountability is huge for most people, especially for people of color, because they have already been beaten down for being honest. So they're afraid to be honest, even with themselves. Okay. Simply put, if they put themselves out there, how will their truth be perceived?
Child, I just went through something where I put myself out there and my truth was not perceived with. Look, Mr. Intellect, hold your
No, I'm just stretching my neck.
Yeah. Hit all the angles now. No, I went through something where my truth was not perceived well. And you know what? At first I wanted to be like, I ain't never tell nobody nothing else. But nah, I just won't tell them. I'll choose better. I will choose different. I will vet people more before I tell them something. I get what you're saying. Like, it's hard to be open and then have somebody spit on your truth. Like, that is very difficult and quite painful, if we're being honest.
No, absolutely.
But then practice being honest with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you can't be honest with the group, or maybe you can't be honest with whomever, but practice being honest with yourself. The problem is when we start lying to ourselves. Now that's too much.
And this is, I'm gonna give you a secret. When you really establish those principles for yourself, when you do that and you got some things you're not going to move off of, and Doc, you don't even know you have them. That's why you move past things like that very quickly, and you're self-aware, which we're going to get into here in just a second. You'll get over those wounds pretty quickly. And if you develop that group around you, like you have the right mentors, boom, 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 you'll be patched up in no time. And you'll get to the point where you just be like, ding, ding, ding. You know what I'm saying? You just Wonder Woman with the gold bracelets, and you just knocking off all the bullets and going on. So stay on that path. And it is dangerous. And there's no way to avoid those type of individuals because they are out there. But when you're aware, not only self-aware, but you're aware about your surroundings, then you're going to be you'll be a formidable opponent to those who try to bring that weak game to the strongest one, in the wise words of a great philosopher, Linda Diane Butler, which was my mama.
Okay.
Yeah, she used to tell me, don't try to bring that weak game to the strongest one. I hold that in the heart. So Facebook user says, today, a lot of people speak of loyalty and respect, but the loss of value of integrity in this generation is major. I think they mean is a major issue, especially in our Black communities. A man's or woman's word should be the most important thing to them. Just my thoughts. Your mother never broke her word to me, Eric, and I wasn't even her son. Okay, I can't see who that is, and I have an idea who it is. I think it's Nate, but but I'm not sure because my mother, man, when I tell you, she loved everybody. She was out there for a lot of people, but I think that may be Nate.
It's Herb.
Herb, okay, Herb, okay, got you. That's the my
Hey,
people.
Keith. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Keisha? How you doing? Key low. No,
That's
and
how I
Herb.
know.
All right, Herb. Man, thank y'all. So we're kind of at a little bit over the halfway mark, and we've talked about accountability here. Just a really quick recap: personal ownership, learning from mistakes, embracing feedback, integrity and honesty, and celebrating successes. We think these are key elements of becoming accountable, being accountable to yourself. And as you grow and become accountable to yourself, you're automatically going to start being accountable to other people. And so, what closely goes aligned and it is aligned with accountability is one of the things I think is most pivotal. And if you're trying to do any kind of elevation, any change, any growth in life, it starts with self-awareness. It's key. It's definitely a pillar if it's not foundational, which everything else is built upon. So we're going to go into self-awareness. And as always, we're going to repeat the definition. Self-awareness is the ability to introspectively recognize and understand one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
That's right.
Doc, introspectively, personally, internally, recognize, I mean, you have to see it and know it.
Right. Show you right.
And it's your thoughts, what you think,
Yep.
what you feel, what your emotions are, what you're feeling.
Right.
And emotions are fleeting. They come and go. They're
Right.
impacted.
And your feelings are not facts,
Boom.
but they are valid just because you have them.
Get it, Doc. And then most importantly, your behaviors, how you act.
How do you show up?
Man, talk, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, it's all connected. Like if you having a negative thought and then you feel sad and you go somewhere and you are looking like it's all connected. So being self-aware is just knowing how you show up. How do you present? How are you behaving in this world? And I think a lot of people think that they are self-aware, but they're not.
Indeed.
I think they like self-aware adjacent.
No, many people think they're self-aware and I don't give a damn. They're 100% not. 100% not. 100% not. Did I say 100%? I said 100%. So let's get into it because we got a few on self-awareness. Recognizing emotions, Doc. You just talked about it and broke down emotions. Emotions are their feelings,
they're not facts. Ever.
Not facts. Not everyone. Not. And so what we want to do is emphasize the importance of identifying and acknowledging our emotions. So, Doc, what's the benefits?
Why is that important? So it's important because you need to know why you acting how you acting. Basically, you need to know why you're showing up the way that you're showing up. You showing up and everybody's like, "Hey, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And you're like, "Why is everybody asking me what's wrong?" Well, it's because you pouting. So what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going on that's making you pout? And so understanding what you're feeling is important so that you're able to convey that to others when they ask. And then you're able to then determine, do I even need to show up in this space right now? Because I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling some type of way. My feelings are valid because I had them. And maybe I don't need to show up in this space. So it's important to know how you're feeling so that you can communicate that and then navigate the world around you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Introspective Soul says, how do each of you practice your awareness?
I just know, like, listen, when I wake up, I do a little self check and I say, Self, how we feeling today? What we got going on? And then I move with that.
Yeah, being when it comes to awareness is one understanding where you want to be, where you want to go. Actually, how do I want to be feeling? How do I want to be impacting others? How do I want to respond to things? Especially, I can being self-aware is knowing when I'm not operating in the space and in the manner that I want to be. I want to be
Yeah, that's
cool.
why I self check. Like, what's your capacity today? Can you show up for these people today? Do you maybe need to reschedule something, right? Like, do
Yes.
I need to be in spaces with other people how I am right now? If I cannot reschedule, if I cannot move around, then how do I shift how I'm feeling right now so that it's different?
Yeah, and I identify that if I see I'm operating outside of that space. If I'm gonna
Mhm.
tell you, this seems very simple, but if I'm driving, someone cuts me off or does something that is because it's common courtesies, lack thereof, really affect me. I don't like that,
I
And if
agree.
I can't keep, because one, they're in a car, they're moving, I can't do anything. They're not going to do anything to me. But if I'm in my car and I speak in a way that I don't want to be speaking, or if I have an emotional outburst that I don't want to be having, then I'm aware, okay, I'm off kilter. I ain't got that in check. So that's when the things that I do, I kind of sit back. I'm an introvert by nature, so that's quiet time. Many times it's a good conversation with those that I know will challenge me and be in that space, in that environment, or maybe some reading is something that I do, and I like to write. So I may write about something, and that'll help center me. But that's just me, and I think it's
Right.
important for other people to find ways. So, introspective soul, we love for you to kind of take the time, share how you uh, how you
Practice
come
your
to know
awareness.
it may help some individuals greatly. And then Miss Steph says self-awareness is a man and woman. She say, I think between a man and woman is sexy as hell, or in a man and woman is sexy as hell. She said to know yourself is powerful. I would agree. Aspen Smith says, isn't it self-awareness when you know what's going on with you, even if it's being perceived incorrectly by the masses?
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
See, I think that's
And don't
something.
let people just tell you anything. If you know what's going on with you, but so and so saying it ain't, or a group of so and so's are saying it ain't, don't just take that. Like, if you know what's happening with you, honestly, truthfully, realistically, not I'm pretending to know because I don't want to look crazy. But if you honestly know, like, don't let nobody tell you different because you are the expert on you. Nobody can tell you about you like you. So,
And I think that's the importance of becoming self-aware and doing the practice, which
yeah.
Dante, which introspective soul is going to give us the full gamut instructions on how to do that. So he should be typing that in right now, because but more seriously, being self-aware is going to help you identify who to listen to and not to listen to. Because
There we go.
when you, can't nobody tell you about that.
You,
Boom.
you.
So the next one is identifying strengths and weaknesses. And I like to call them opportunities of, these are,
Opportunities of growth.
there you go.
Here's the thing. So all of this is cute, right? But if you don't practice or do anything to grow with your opportunities of growth, what's the point in knowing them? I think that's why people get frustrated with like self-awareness and self-development and stuff like that, because you can have all the information, but if you're not doing anything to raise your vibrations, rise to a higher level of consciousness, be better, do better, whatever, however you want to say it, then what's the point?
Hmm. What Doc said, what's the
Drop the
point?
mic. Boof.
So, Doc, I want you to make it layman's for me. So if you know what you like, having strengths and knowing the areas, opportunities of improvement or opportunities of growth that you like to say, but you said they're not putting any action behind it. So it don't even
Yeah,
matter whether you know it or not because you ain't doing nothing to
right.
do about it. Okay.
That's exactly it. Yep.
All right. I got it then. So
But I do think
individual,
it's important to know what they are, right? At least know what they are. if for nothing else except that you're gonna go on a job interview and they're gonna ask you what's your strengths and weaknesses. So it is important to know what they are, and it does help you gain some sense of self-awareness, but it does you no good if you don't do anything about the opportunities for growth.
No, I agree. I have a practice. Well, I'll say I went through a practice of that. I call it's my philosophy and what I live by. And a part of that is really like you got to look at your good, your bad, and your ugly, right? And the thing is, and a part of that is you put that out. That's you got to put all that stuff out on the table. I'm talking about your ugly, the things that you embarrassed that you plan to die with. You ain't got to share it with nobody else, but you damn sure need to admit it and share it with yourself. And then once you do that, you identify the things that you would consider strengths, since we're using that word, things that will be weaknesses or areas of improvement or growth, and the things that you absolutely need to eradicate from yourself and from your sphere, from your thinking or your actions. It could be habits, it could be subconscious concepts, practices you have, and you need to identify those and put them in that category. These is what I'm going to keep and I'm going to add to. These are things that are a little shaky. I think I can keep them, but I'm going to make those strengths instead of areas of opportunity. And the things that are ugly, man, we got to find a scalpel to cut that shit off and never let it return again. And that could be going to a therapist. That could be sometimes it's just acknowledging it and exposing it. And once you get a good look at it, just the impact of that will make you turn from that. So what am I doing? Why do I think what I think? How did I come to even practice this? Reverse engineer it is what I call it. Get to the root of it, and then we can pull up the roots and go get some help. So you're right. If you don't do anything, but the thing is, I say go get help. And if you don't know what to do to make the changes, go find someone who can help you and give you a practical approach to addressing those things.
Right.
So identifying strengths and weaknesses. The next, which this rolls right into, is self-reflection.
Hold on, before we get that, hit the comment.
Miss Steph said not to get off this, but the church will tell you to ignore your feelings, but another subject for another day.
I'm never gonna tell you to ignore your feelings, because what you don't acknowledge, what you don't deal with comes back. It comes back harder because it has more momentum, it has more vengeance with it, because something else has happened. So I'm never gonna say ignore your feelings. I just don't think that's appropriate.
She said admit it and talk therapy helps. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook user says self-awareness to me is based on consistency, your consistent character, your consistent actions, and most importantly to me is your word being consistent.
Okay, like it, love it.
Indeed. With that, but Doc, let me on the question about your feelings. What is your thought on? Because I think sometimes your intuition is speaking to you, and someone may categorize that as a feeling versus, intuition. I think is something deeper and more important that needs to be paid attention to. So, what are your thoughts on what's the differences of that, or how can you tell the difference?
I think you really got to be in tune with yourself before you can tell the difference. And I think the reason that people categorize intuition as a feeling is because they don't have another word for it, right? There's no other plate, there's no other box or bucket to drop it into, and so that's why. Also, because sometimes your intuition shows up physically, like how you see somebody walking down the street and maybe it's 80 degrees and they got on a trench coat and they look suspect, and in your stomach, well, maybe not your stomach because you're no man, but then your stomach does like a little loop-de-loop. That's your intuition telling you, hey, you may want to step away from this. That's telling you to be more alert. And so maybe that's why they categorize it as that. But I absolutely think there's room for intuition. I think intuition just knows, even if it doesn't have science, facts, and evidence to back it up, it just knows.
I know. A good deal. And like you said, I think you can tell the difference to that. Introspective Soul says, earlier you mentioned that no one knows you more than you. How does that leverage with seeking out assistance, advisory from others? I'm not going to argue with you. You ain't going to come on here and be combative. Don't forget, I know where you live. I will come see you. He know what I'm talking about. He know what I'm talking about. But for the sake,
No, but for the sake of the show, because somebody
yes,
else might have that same
yeah,
question.
go
So
ahead.
what we meant by that, or what I'm thinking that we meant by that, because I actually don't even remember that. But what I think we meant by that is like, you are the expert on you, but just because you're the expert on you, don't mean you don't need a tune up, right? Like, I can know who I am. Nobody can tell me about me but me, because nobody was with me when I did it but me. But this person can help me understand this may be why I did it, or this is how we can do it better next time, or things like that. Like, being the expert on myself doesn't mean I don't need help, assistance, or advisory from others who I deem to be appropriate.
Mm-hmm. And I would respond. Yeah, that's my brother, y'all. To answer, I think it's important to understand that there are levels. There is levels to life until you get to a certain point. When you were first born, you couldn't do anything on your own. So I think there's a natural, as above as below. So there's going to be some coaching and some spiritual growth that has to come, and it comes with others who've already been there. So
Right.
those who have suffered to a thing can relate to a person to maybe help them identify the things that they are identifying within themselves. So assistance is going to come. But as you do that, you definitely have to look and understand yourself where you are so that you will connect. And I think that's something that comes, just like you talked about the difference between feelings and intuition. There's a difference. They feel different. They just don't have another way to kind of describe the difference between them, so to speak. I think it's the same way when you run into those certain spirits and people that you can tolerate and be around, and some of those that you can't. So as you seek that out, you might not even seek them out. They'll attract to you. So when we talk about finding those individuals, it's almost a mutual thing, as I would say. But you definitely know nothing of. I think it's Dr. George Frazier. He has a quote. He says, "Nothing of great significance is ever done alone." So even so for those who are my Bible readers and Christian based thinkers, Jesus was God and he ain't do it alone. He went and got 12 people to ride with him. You know what I'm saying? So
There's
um,
that.
so it's always somebody. And if you're a spiritual person, if you look at nature, nothing on this planet ever operates on its own. You take out bees, we all die. You know what I mean?
We
You
all,
remove the trees, we can't breathe.
oh, we all die
If you
for
remove
real.
us, the trees gonna suffocate. It's all connected in that way. So nobody's gonna do anything alone, ultimately. All right. So moving on, we got about 10 minutes left, but we're gonna try to work our way through this. Um, so self-reflection and introspection. So reflection is like gaining a deeper insight into one's thoughts and behaviors. Doc, this is your specialty, that's your
Yeah,
area.
I think it's important because we want to know why we are behaving the way that we're behaving, right?
Why?
Sometimes I tell people, hey, let's pause on trying to figure out why we're doing it and let's just correct it. Because it could take us weeks, months, years for you to trust me and really tell me the thing. And had I known this thing, session one, we could have skipped all this, right? But people don't always come in and do that. So I think it's important to the root cause is important, but if we can't get there, let's just work on the behavior. Let's
Yeah,
just
it's
stop
like
cutting people out. Like, let's stop
let's
doing
let's
that.
stop let's stop the bleeding. Let's stop the
Yeah,
bleeding, and then we'll talk about what we're not going to sit here and say, well, how did you get the cut? And what
no,
was it that was used to get the cut? We're going to stop the bleeding, and
right.
then we'll address, how do we get the injury, so be alive, so you can work on that. You know what I mean? So I definitely like that. And then next would be awareness of triggers and patterns, Doc. So understanding triggers that lead to certain emotions or lead to certain behaviors.
Yes. I'm always gonna say be aware of your triggers. I'm always gonna say be aware of them so that you will know, oh, this made me upset. So the next time I see this, before I cuss this person out, I need to take a couple deep breaths so that I can behave differently. It's important to know what triggers you so that you can then navigate how we're gonna manage it. You can't always control what other people are going to do, what situations you might find yourself in, but you need to be able to control you. So, like, if you know, okay, large crowds make me anxious, don't go to the concert. It's going to be a large crowd. Don't do that.
I get it. I get it. No, that's perfect. Thanks, Doc. Um, and you talked about patterns. Because I think initially, once we stop that bleeding, definitely looking into why you do what you do is going to be a key element. Because if you don't understand why, you're going to end up back in the same place, maybe getting the same cut, and even in the same area, which can be deadly in literally, but
Right.
figuratively speaking, you don't want to keep encountering that too. So
Right.
the process of reverse engineering, looking at your subconscious, where did you learn it? Like, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you practice what you practice?
That's so difficult though, because a lot of people don't know why they believe what they believe.
But sadly, I think if they did it, they'll be like, because my mama's mamas did it, and my daddy's
So I've
daddy.
even said to them, "Do we just do this because this is how we've grown up?" And they like, I don't know. Well, I
There
don't
you
either
have
because
it.
I went there. So
Yep, I'm gonna let you handle that because I'm gonna be a little rough on that one. I'm be like, well, of course. If you ain't got the answer, I got one for you. Because if you don't know, then maybe we need to sit down and think about why do you believe what you believe? Do you really believe it?
So the next question is, do you really believe it? It's not, well, of course you know, like, no, you just say, okay, well, this is your belief, and then you repeat it back to them and say, now, does that sound true? Does that sound like something we believe or not?
Absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. I like to be on. I got to take them
I
off track.
know. Like,
So, seeking. We're down to our last 5 minutes just to keep
okay.
everybody on point. So if we cut you off, y'all don't be upset. But seeking feedback. Mindfulness practices can enhance self awareness. So seeking feedback.
So sometimes, I mean, I think it's good. Like if you at work and you want to know how you doing on your job, go ask your supervisor, hey, just looking for some feedback. You in a relationship, you need to ask your partner, hey, are you being served the way you want to be served? Like, what's up? Give me some feedback. I think feedback helps keep us from surprises. So when they fire you, if you had asked for feedback, you wouldn't be surprised. When your partner breaks up with you because you did not do X, Y, and Z, if you had asked for feedback, you wouldn't be surprised. So I think feedback is important. Mindfulness, to go to your other point, mindfulness is great because it's going to bring you back to the present moment and not your mind like racing about the future or regretting the past, but like right now in this moment, can you enjoy? Can you look at yourself? Can you be aware? Can you be accountable to you in this moment? So I'm always gonna advocate for mindfulness, and it's fun.
Right. And I want people to don't be afraid because I know there's a segment out there. They don't go ask for feedback because they already know the answer they're gonna get, or they don't even want to do. They don't want to give someone the opportunity to add more to what they're doing. And if you already feel like that, then you already got an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be self-aware of that. So if you don't want to go ask where you are and how you're doing, whether that's on your job, within your relationship, or in any type of relationship, because the better you know yourself, you'll be able to gauge if you're on point or not on point. But in
Right.
order to stay there and always improve, because I think that is something that is ever evolving as
Mm-hmm.
time goes on. But don't be afraid to go ask. So challenge yourself and ask yourself, are you in that position where you're afraid to go ask because you don't want the response or you're afraid of the response you receive, as Doc kind of highlighted. And acceptance and non-judgment. So the need for self-acceptance and non-judgmental awareness, where does that fit in?
I mean, I think it's everything because we're human, so we're gonna make mistakes. Acknowledge and be accountable, but don't judge yourself. Like when you get all judgmental about and moralize things and like do the whole thing like, well, you're a bad person because you made this mistake, like you're going to keep making mistakes because you're going to fall in, or you could keep making mistakes because you could fall into like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I'm a bad person, so I'm bad, I might as well do all this, you know what I mean? So I think that compassionate self-awareness is good.
Yes. And so you got to be compassionate with yourself. You got to practice that. Keyword in all this is self. So, and don't judge yourself so much. You know what I mean? And I think many people can't even get off the launching pad because they've already condemn themselves that they don't have that, whether it be a mistake, um, or they're not living up to this false premise and idea of outside entities. And you need that's why the self-awareness about who you are, where you are, and what you are, or where you're trying to be able to go is going to be so important. And as introspective soul talked about the practices of making of your awareness and how do you do that. So I think that's important. And Doc, I think we're good to keep going. It won't take much longer. So we're fine to keep going if you're good.
Yeah, sure.
All right, all right. So values and beliefs. So so we're talking about your personal values and beliefs as they as it appoints to your self awareness. So what would be our advice, feedback, and perspective on that?
Well, I don't think that you can be self aware if you don't know what you value and believe.
Say it, Doc.
That's it. That's all.
Oh, well, I'm gonna say this: values and beliefs are really going to be the build, in my opinion, are the building blocks of who you're going to be and what you're going to be. So if you don't know what you stand for, if you haven't built some principles on which, and I'm not challenging you to say they have to align with anyone else's, but you need to know what yours are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you know what yours are, and know what your values and your beliefs are, which is we just talked about it. Why do you believe what you believe? Because if you really have an understanding of that, one, you're going to be able to have the integrity that we talked about earlier. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
have the honesty because you're just not going to be easily moved off that square.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to heighten your awareness of not only yourself but your surroundings and who you're dealing with, and it's going to help you decide which direction to go, who you'll
Exactly.
hang with, and what you're going to be about. So um, it fosters all of the fundamental things: who you'll be compassionate with, how you'll be compassionate, and the more that you know that um, about what your values and your beliefs are, the stronger your self awareness is going to become.
Agreed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. That's it.
And so as we move to and I'm going to do a quick recap of self awareness. When we talked about self awareness, we talked about recognizing emotions, identifying strengths and areas of improvement or growth, self reflection and introspection, awareness of triggers and patterns within ourselves, seeking feedback, making sure that feedback comes from someone. Or even outside perspectives and ideas, just seeking that feedback. But as we grow, as we're self-aware, we'll be able to keep the bone, keep the meat and throw away the bone, so to speak. Acceptance and non-judgment. So one, not to judge others, but most importantly, don't be so critically judging of yourself that you don't give yourself the room to grow, and to accept what's going on so that you can become more self-aware, because you're going to evolve from that and have a better identification of which way to go. Your values and beliefs, these are the fundamental building blocks of self.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that hold you up when all the calamity come. It'll be your values and beliefs that are going to be foundational. They're going to be your concrete, your platform that the walls and everything else can be built upon.
Right.
And coming into our last aspect, which I'm going to sit back because the whirlwind of gusto going to come through.
Oh
Um,
Lord.
Setting boundaries.
Oof. This is my favorite thing ever. Everybody get okay, okay. See how I can give it to you quick. Everybody gets all worked up when they hear boundaries because it's like a B word, but boundaries are everything. They're super important because what they're going to do is they're going to take the guesswork out of how we're going to be in relationship. It's going to take the guesswork out of how we are going to do this thing called life together or not. I'm going to tell you what my expectations are of people who are in my life, and then you get to decide, girl, you doing too much, I don't want to do it, or okay, yeah, that sounds perfect, let's be besties for the resties. But we have to have clear boundaries, and we have to set our boundaries with clear intention, and don't let people cross them. Because when you allow people to cross your boundaries, you teach them that your boundaries don't matter. And then you walking around here wondering why you stressed out, why you tired, why you overwhelmed. It's because you're saying yes to everybody else and no to yourself. So put your boundaries in place. Boundaries is not a bad word. It is a beautiful thing. Okay.
I will not say anything about boundaries because you can't improve on that right there. So that really brings us to the last of the aspects and points that we wanted to just share and give our perspective on when it came to self-awareness and accountability. We believe these things are really the pathways to real healing. And when we say real healing, we mean holistic healing. So and the definition of healing, we'll say the holistic healing, it really is all encompassing. So it's not healing like a wound, but I think it's everything. So it's emotionally, physically, psychologically, and Doc would even say financially and
Sure
physically
would.
too. So it would include all of those things. So when we talk about that, to really get to that point, being the best version of yourself, really expanding all of your gifts, maybe even identifying your purpose, is going to come from being self-aware
Mhm.
and being accountable. These are fundamental, foundational aspects of being you. And so we hope some of the things that we've shared have you either just evoked thought to maybe take on the opportunity to go and look down that path, so you become more self-aware, become more accountable, and mostly to yourself. Because if you do that, then you're going to be aware of your surroundings, and you're also going to be accountable to others, and that's just going to bring you into a better situation of life. And so we hope that this has been beneficial, and we're going to shut it down. We're going to say our good nights, and we want to thank everyone that contributed to in the chats. And we love it when you give us our feedback and some of your insights. It's always welcome and thankful, not just for us, but I know it's going to be other viewers that are going to benefit from that. I want to thank Introspective Soul because he always challenges and come through with the good stuff. And he did not write down that list, the instructions I asked for. So I'm gonna probably bug him later on, be like, man, you could have went in there and shared all that good stuff. And he said, introspective soul. I'm sorry. Did he said good insight. He said, you both have provided. He said, would like to know more of your take on boundaries soon. Okay,
I
appreciate
got
that.
you. That's my topic.
Yeah. Says, good job, fam. Appreciate it, man. Love you,
Thank
brother.
you.
All right, good night. Good night. Miss
Thank
Steph,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. And Miss
Thank you
Steph, I
for
saw
being here.
some of your posts on TikTok. I like that wisdom you be dropping on folks. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, hey, everybody, next Thursday, Perspective, Thursday nights at 8:30. Make sure you go out to the BS3 network, like, share, sit on those notifications so you can see some of the other programming. And we'll see you next week with a smile on our face, regardless of what's going on, because ain't nothing nobody can do about it. We love you. And good night.
Good night.